Alright, this is BD Tetra, and I'm going to be explaining what you need to know to get to higher difficulties in this game, including very hard and romancing. This video is going to be fairly long, and I'll try to timestamp things, but I'll try to get into the information as quickly as possible. So, first of all, what I've already expected you to do at this point are obviously beating the game. You've beaten the secret boss in the game. You should have collected all the chests in every area and collected all the Mr. S's. You can see the Mr. S progress in the Almanac, Mr. S Finder, right here, 50 out of 50. At level 40, you get an extra combo gauge. At level 50, you get extra chance at sparking. This is important because in New Game Plus, all your skills are reset and you won't have any techs unlocked. Now you will have all your attributes remain the same. You will have all your items, except for the key items, notably books. These will also reset, so you have to collect them again. But every single other thing, like abilities, formations, equipment, will all be transferred to your New Game Plus. So you should be unlocking the Mr. S's. You should be getting all the treasure chests. Now, important part about farming formations and abilities. Abilities, it's fairly simple, so I'll just go over that first. All you need to do is have your party member, have them in your party member and perform 60 battles. That's it. It's not complicated. You just do it. Just unlock all your abilities for the characters you have available. For formations, it's a bit more complicated, and you can only do this before you get your final emperor. How you do this, I'll just explain it as my final emperor, but you have to do this before you get him. You sit on your chair, you abdicate the current emperor. This will replace your current emperor with a new one, and you will go to the training hall. You talk to the formation guy, he'll give you a formation. Now, if you go back to the throne room right now and try to abdicate again, since you abdicated just before, you cannot abdicate a second time. What you need to do instead is to remove all your equipment, have the character as solo, go to Ludon Heights and kill the character off. This will spawn another set of emperors, and you'll spawn right back into the throne room. You can go to the training hall, get your formation, sit down. You can now abdicate the emperor, get a new emperor, go to the training hall, learn the formation, now kill them off, and get a new emperor, and repeat that until you get your formation for every single character that you have. So that's how you get all the formations. Yep. Okay, so now equipment. Oh wait, before that, abilities. There's a few secret abilities in this game that you need to do certain actions to get. One of them is here. This requires you to have already done Coppelia as Emperor. If you played Coppelia as Emperor, at the next generation she will be right here in this storage room. If you talk to this body, you'll get an ability that grants status immunity to all ailments. The other two secret or semi-secret abilities is, one is here at the Gerald portrait in your castle. This will be available after Gerald anytime. It doesn't have to be the final emperor. Anytime after the first Gerald emperor. You go here, talk to this portrait, and then you get a +1 to all attributes ability. And the second ability is right here in front of the Leon portrait. This will only be available at the final emperor. You talk to this, you get ability that grants +5 to all attributes against bosses. So those are the three secret optional abilities that you can get. Now I'll go over the equipment. There are a couple of very important equipment that you can get, and they're going to be very helpful for especially the early parts of the run, but all the way into the late game. So the first one is Eris's Bow. Eris's Bow is the final tier of the bow craft, and you can just craft this after you get to level 3 smithy. The second one is the Terrorblade. You get this as an upgrade to the S-Stock. You need 1 Avalonia. Avalonia can be farmed. I'll tell you how later. And the S-Stock is the final tier of the short swords. The other one is the Zircon Axe. This is also similar in that you need Avalonia. The Great Axe can be crafted. And Lance of Ucom, same thing, Avalonia. And I'll tell you what these do. The most important one is the Eris's Bow, right here. This will grant you the Heat Wave skill. This is the only part that matters. The bow strength does not matter. The only important part is that it grants the Heat Wave skill. And what this is it's a fire and wind spell. This is available the moment you equip it. You do not need to spark it at all. This is why this is important. This will grant you the ability to do AoE damage to all the enemy characters on the field without just by equipping the item. So you don't need any prerequisites. This is why it's really good. The only other early AoE skill that you have is from the bow, and you'll need to spark that. So this is very important, and this is why you will be wanting to level fire and wind before you go to New Game Plus run. Get 4 of these. Terrorblade, same thing. This will grant elixir. This will heal you to maximum HP no matter what your stats are. So if you have 0 in water and 0 levels in earth, you will still maximum heal your characters from death, which is very important. This is critical, especially for very hard and romancing difficulties, because in these difficulties the enemies will do, like, for very hard they will do like 700 damage, 800 damage, like even at the very beginning. And the romancing difficulty they will do like 1,000, 1,100 damage in at the very beginning. So because you only have healing, you only have the very basic healing spells accessible at the very beginning, such as the water heal, this will not be enough to counteract the damage you'll be having to deal with. So by having the option to access elixir from the very beginning, you will be able to counteract the damage very easily. And again, because the enemies do like 700 damage at very hard and 1,000 damage, 1,100 damage on romancing difficulty, that will be the minimum stat line that you want before you go into those difficulties. Alright, so those are the weapons that are important. Obviously you've gotten the 7 hero weapons, right? So outside of that, those are the important ones. You do not want to get 7 sword. This is very important because the 7th sword requires a fate stone. A fate stone is only available 1 per run. This is available at the university if you beat the hardest exam in the university, and you can only get 1 copy of it. The reason you do not want to get the 7th sword is because there's a 7th armor, and this is more important than the 7th sword. 7's armor is the best armor in terms of physical defenses in the game. This is better than the 2nd best one, which is the Dragon's armor, and you can only get 1 per run. That's why you want to trade your Fate Stone into 7's armor instead of the 7's sword. Also, the 7th sword is not the best sword in the game. That's for the sword that you get from the 7 heroes, and that has both higher attack damage as well as a unique skill that you can spark from them. The 7th sword does not have a unique sparking skill available from it, so therefore you will never use this Never trade for it. The only reason you would trade for it is for completionist purposes. Okay, now that that's done, the other important equipment that you really need before you get into New Game Plus run: Willguard Plus and Feather Boots. These will be very important. Also, Sunlight Robe. These three are going to be very important, especially the Willguard, and I'll show you where to get them. You'll probably, if you play through this game normally, you probably don't even have a single one of these. You're probably wondering what the hell these are. Okay, so these are drop only. Sunlight Robe, I think you can get one copy of them in one of the chests. I'm not sure, but outside of the Sunlight Robe, Willguard and Feather Boots are drop only. So you will be having to farm these, and I'll show you exactly where. But first, I'll show you exactly what these do. Willguard is 40% chance to block, and it will block all physical damage. Like, guaranteed, you won't be dealt any damage if you proc the block. This is better than the second best shield, which is arguably Dragon's Shield. 40% same block chance, but only increases their physical defenses. The other one that might be considered very good is the Templar Shield. This is 50% block chance. This is higher block chance, but again, it's only 40%. It's only plus 40 physical defenses. The other one is Wonder Bangle. This is 100% block chance, which sounds good, but if you read the text, it says it only blocks incoming throw attacks. So again, it's throw physical attacks that it blocks, which is very limited. So therefore, Willguard is the best shield, and you will want to have 5 copies of this. This will only not be equipped on characters that use two-handed weapons. And what two-handed weapons I'm specifically mentioning is the great swords, the spears, and bows, and martial arts. These are considered two-handed actions when you use an attack on them. And if you do so, if you use a two-handed attack, that turn you will not be able to use a shield. In the original game, spells were also considered two-handed weapons or two-handed actions, and therefore you couldn't block. But in this remake, spells are no longer considered two-handed actions. Therefore, you will be able to equip a Willguard onto your spellcasters, and they will fully have the advantage of being able to use the shield while you also cast spells. So that's why Willguard is very good, very important item. Sunlight Robe, I just mentioned, it increases your magic stats. This will be the best armor for your casters. For your non-casters, you will use the Twilight Robe, provided that you do not want to equip with heavy armor. If you don't want to equip with heavy armor and you aren't a magic caster, you will be equipping a Twilight Robe. This will be the case for characters like martial artists, which if you equip a heavy armor, your speed stat will go down, and you don't want that. So, yeah. I mean, your encumbrance will go down, sorry. Your encumbrance will go up, therefore your damage will go down. So, for martial artists, you want to equip the Twilight Robe. The other important equipment is Magician's Cap. This is the best helmet slot for magic casters. The other option is generally, like, not a lot of these are generally good. Mighty Helm is pretty good. It increases the strength stat, except it doesn't really have amazing stats for defense wise. So it might not be the best option, but you still probably can get one or two. These are also farmable. Another option is the Rabbit Ears. This is like, you probably have a lot of these. It gives you good status ailments resistances, so this might be an option you want to be using. Right, for the Gauntlet slot, Uncanny Gloves is by far the best one, even if you're not using strength on your characters. This is simply the best one that provides the best stats in terms of defense. So unless you're a character that equips the Beast Gauntlets, which is the 7 hero item, you'll be equipping Uncanny Gloves most likely. And for characters that actually want dexterity, you want to equip Mastery Gloves. Right, so Magician's Boots is the best boots for magic casters. The other option is the Feather Boots. Feather Boots is also pretty good. It's a toss-up between which one you want to use depending on if you're using magic or not. Right, so where to farm these? You go to the final dungeon, level 3. Alright, so you go up. This will be for farming Willguard, the Sunlight Robe, or the Feather Boots. So you go left. You ignore all these enemies. And then you'll see this angel token. The angel symbol character will drop the Willguard. It's a very low chance. You'll want to use... Oops. You can just flee if you encounter enemies. You'll be wanting to equip your Bejeweled Ring for drop chance if you're going to be farming this, by the way, because otherwise it's very low chance. This is the second group. And these fire guides will be dropping the Sunlight Robe. There's 2 sets of these. You go right. The green guys will be dropping the Feather Boots. Alright, I forgot to mention the Feather Boots. Right. The Feather Boots is the other option, which increases a lot of movement speed, so this is really good. Right, so once you farm them, you probably want like 4 Feather Boots. Maybe not 4 Feather Boots, like maybe 2 Feather Boots and like 4... you'll want 5... you want the 5 of the shields. Willguards. You don't probably... You only need Sunlight Robes for the casters, so you don't need much of those. Anyway, so you're going to be farming here a lot. Once you farm them, once you kill them off, you go to Snowdrifts or wherever you want, doesn't really matter. Then you warp back, level 3, and then the enemies will respawn, and that's the way you farm it. So, while we're in Snowdrifts, I'll explain how you level your character. And I recommend you doing this in Snowdrifts. I think it's the easiest. There might be a better place. I found this place fine. So why this place is really good is because a lot of the enemies here are weak to fire and light, and this allows me to farm them very quickly while being able to use every single character that I want to level before my final character. And this is important because you only level the skills that you actually use. And then I finish them off with Flash Fire, which is the best spell in the game. Flash Fire will do full AoE damage. It will do fire and light damage, and it also has a chance to stun enemies that are not stun immune. So this is why I'm using this. And as you can see here, I'm using this specific setup here where I use the 4 characters that I want to level first before I finish them off. And this is important, as I've said, because you need to use your skills in order to level them up. And it's fairly fast. The way I'm doing this is setting up a formation here. There's 2 options here. You can either use Dragon Stance or Lightning Flash. Lightning Flash is worse. Dragon Stance is better. Dragon Stance is the formation you get from martial artists. Lightning Flash is, I forgot, I think this one's the one you get from the Japanese soldiers, I think. Anyways, Dragon Stance, better. The reason is because they both have the same thing in where the action order is fixed. It says on the bottom left. What this means is when the first character acts in the very front, The second character will act and third character will act in this specific order without any interruptions from the enemies. So basically that means is that the only character that needs to have a lot of speed is the very first and front character. And this is why Dragon's Dance is better, because Dragon's Dance grants speed bonus to the very front character, which makes it much easier to set up this formation in a way where the first character has enough speed to outspeed every single other enemy character. And you do this by stacking speed onto your characters like Feather Boots, Quickness Ring, whatever. It doesn't really matter. All the other equipment doesn't matter. So I'm leveling here with Fire and Wind because I'm going to be using the Fire and Wind spell Heat Wave in the very beginning of the run. And these attributes, these levels, will be carrying over to the New Game Plus run. This is why I'm using these characters, because I'm going to be having access to these characters at the beginning of the run. Alright, so alright, quick sidetrack. Where you farm Avalonia is in the final dungeon, actually the secret dungeon here. Right on the side of the secret boss, you see this guy. This guy is the Ancient Termite. You can always check the enemy compendium for drop info. As you can see, it says Avalonia. This character, this enemy hits very hard, and it also uses a skill called Death Rain. Death Rain will hit all your characters, and they will, if it has a chance to proc instant death, which is really bad. The way of dealing with this is either having immunity to death, which is very rare, or you use a Firewall. Firewall will prevent all damage, and it will not proc the instant death either. So that's how you deal with it if you can't kill this Ancient Termite in one turn. So that's how you farm this character. And we'll go back to taverns. Yeah. Alright, so the reason I'm using these specific characters to level is because I'm going to be having access to them on the very early parts of the New Game Plus run. The reason I'm not using female Court Mage here, even though she's really good, is because female Court Mage's levels of Fire and Wind skill are dependent on the Mastery level. You can see the Mastery level on the Imperial Standing list right here. Female Court Mage already has innate abilities to get Fire and Wind magic, which means that when they join your party, their stats will be based on the Fire and Wind level of your Mastery instead. Therefore, I do not need to separately level her, unlike these characters which do not have innate Fire and Wind masteries on them. I hope that makes sense, okay? So that's why I'm leveling these characters. And now that that's done... Yeah, okay, so I'll just briefly go over the best characters in the game and how you get them. Okay, so Kongming, best spellcaster in the game by far, 25 speed, 25 magic. The most important stats you can get on a magic caster are both maxed out on this character, which makes him arguably the best character in the game. The only downside here is the 10 stamina. 10 strength and 10 dex don't really matter because you're not going to be using weapons here. The 10 stamina does matter because stamina affects your how long status ailments last on your character when they get hit. So if you have low stamina, status elements will last longer on them. This can be completely negated by having an accessory that completely nullifies them against status ailments. So that's why Kongming is the best. Kongming is the 8th generation strategist, and no other strategist comes even close to these stats. So that's why it's the best. I'll briefly explain how the generations work. So basically what happens in this game is there's 8 characters per class, and they're on a rotation. So you start out with the first generation. They have a specific name and a specific stat. These are static. depending on the character name. Once that character either dies, or a time skip happens, or a certain event that kills off your characters or something happens, you'll know what that is if you played the game. I won't go into it, but when that happens, the next generation of those characters spawn, and then the first generation character will be replaced with the second generation character. This will go on. You can, lose all LP for that character to spawn the next generation, and it'll go on until the 8th generation. Once the 8th generation dies, then it'll go back to the 1st generation. So that's how it works. The very easiest way of replacing characters in this game is to use the Darkstone Ring. The Darkstone Ring is a ring that you can get from a certain quest. It spawns at Tefal first. So there's 2 quests that you need to do. First, there's a very early quest at Tefal that makes you kill a boss in Gemstone Mine. So you do that first, and then after a few generations passes, another quest spawns in Tefal that tells you that there's like this crystal that you need to destroy or something. So you go there again, you go to Gemstone Mines again, and you get the option at the very end to either take home the crystal or leave it, I think. And you want to take home the crystal. Taking home the crystal doesn't really have any negative effects. You don't need to worry about it. It sounds bad, but it's fine, actually, and it's actually better. You bring the crystal to the mole den, and then you talk to one of the moles there, and they will craft you a ring, which is the Gemstone Ring, or Darkstone Ring. What this does is it gives you +3 magic, and also gives you element resistances for 3 of the most important ones: Temptation, Berserk, and Confusion. So this already is very good. There's a downside to this though, in where if you sleep in any bed, it doesn't matter where, you can be at your home, you can be at your inn, it doesn't matter. If you sleep while you have the Darkstone Ring equipped, every single other character that does not have the Darkstone Ring equipped will get -1 LP. And then that LP will be transferred onto the character that has the Darkstone Ring. And this is either good or bad depending on how you use it, right? So in a situation where you have one character very low on LP, and they really could help with getting more LP, you can equip the Darkstone Ring onto them, go into an inn, and transfer your 4 LP from the other characters onto that character, and basically average out the LP. That's one way of using it. If you don't want to deal with this at all, you can just unequip the ring and sleep, and nothing will happen. It'll be completely fine. Just don't forget to re-equip it after you wake up. Okay, so that's how you deal with the Gemstone or Darkstone Ring, sorry. Let's get back to the best characters. So we went over Kongming. The second best magic caster in the game is Skaya. Skaya has 24 magic stats, which is the second best in the game, and 21 speed, which is very respectable. She has dex, but it's not really important. Her LP is also pretty low. Kongming had 5, I think. Where is it? Yeah, Kongming had 5, and Skaya has 8. So it's not that different, but Skaya does have a bit more. She's also going to be used exactly the same way as Kongming. The only difference here, major difference here, is her innate ability is strictly worse. Giving air damage immunity is situational at best, and unlike Kongming here, which has generic 10% spell damage, which will always be useful, she is going to be situationally useful. So keep that in mind when you use her. Okay, so the other best character in the game is Hannibal. Hannibal is, I don't know which generation he is, but he has the best strength in the game. He's an Imperial Guard male, and he has high LP, Pretty good HP gain as well. And he's going to be your main offensive character available. He's going to probably be using axes or spears depending on which one you really want to use. In this game, spears are considered two-handed weapons, so are great swords, so are bows, and so are martial arts. These are all considered two-handed weapons, and therefore when you use an action with them, they're considered two-handed actions. This is important because once you use a two-handed action, that turn your shield cannot proc. So if you want to be using a shield at all times, you'll be actually wanting to use something like an axe, which is considered a one-handed weapon. In the previous original Romancing Saga 2, spells were also considered two-handed actions, but in this game, spells are not considered two-handed actions, and you can actually use them with one hand, which means that characters like spellcasters will be able to fully utilize a shield. So that's what you have to think about in whether you want to use a lance, or a spear, or an axe. I think these two are the best weapons in the game. So that's Hannibal. And the other great character in this game is Soji. Soji has the best combination of both strength and speed. And this is important because martial arts use checks attributes from both strength and speed to dictate their damage. And this is why Soji is the best damage dealer in terms of pure damage. I'm going to specify he's good purely for doing damage and nothing else. And this is important because of his LP. LP is 1. This is really, really bad in this game. Really bad. And the reason is because, well, this automatically means that you will have to be using the ability that prevents you from losing LP onto this character. And that means that you're wasting an ability slot on a character that has offensive stats, right? So you're wasting one ability slot for non-offensive purpose. And this goes more deep here because his innate ability of BP reduction is not necessarily an offensive ability in itself. I mean, this is very useful for your first playthrough of the game. This ability will legitimately be life-saving on early game, but when you're doing new game plus runs, this ability really does not matter. So you're wasting 2 ability slots to actually utilize this character, which is why I don't consider him the best. And Fuyo is going to be my choice of best martial artist in the game. Yes, she's a ninja. Yes, she is a ninja, but she is the best martial artist because her combination of both strength and speed are the highest out of any other character in the game. Let's see. You can check this martial artist right here as 1818. Some martial artists will have higher strength, but they will also have fairly low speed. And this is why Fuyo is the best martial artist in the game. And as you can see, I use her pretty much all the time once I got her. That's why her martial arts level is really high. And also, her innate ability of dealing 15% extra damage against weakness is never bad. It's always good. So again, that's why you don't have any wasted ability slots, which is really good for this character. I think that's about it. Oh yeah, I'll just go over Salamander as well. Kelly is really good. He's not the best Salamander, actually. I think the 4th or 5th generation Salamander called Au is the best one. He has a bit more strength than Kelud, but it's not that different. It's 1 more. So Kelud has very high stamina, very high strength, This is very important. Also has decent HP growth. And yeah, generally good character in the front lines. The fire immunity is much better than wind immunity. There's a lot more fire attacks in this game than wind attacks. Therefore, generally speaking, salamanders are going to be the better choice. That being said, this is a trade-off with the other mage character that uses dark magic, and I think dark magic is better on the second playthrough, so you'll have to cut out the salamander in that case, because it's take one or the other. So those are the best characters in the game, I guess. Yeah. Alright, so I think that covers most of it. If you have questions or whatever, you can ask them in the comments. I'll try to answer if I can. This game is pretty deep. A lot of the information actually is directly copied from the original Romancing Saga 2. So all the character stats, generally where the secret items are, all that information is like pretty much directly from the original one. So you can actually use the original Romancing Saga 2 as a guide for this remake, which is really cool, I find. So like I didn't really have trouble playing on classic mode because I've already experienced the original game a lot. So yeah, that's about it. If you have questions, ask away, and I might make another video if a lot of questions come. See ya.